Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast, and I'm going to go ahead and let our guest just introduce us.
Live from Kalamazoo, it's Shannon and Rebecca.
Yay! You're like a natural at this. This is perfect.
Thank
we need
you.
to get what else do we have on here? Oh no, let's. Oh no, we need to stay away from that.
Don't
one.
do that.
We should have done like Rebecca. And we should have been like, Shannon.
No, don't sell yourself short.
So, Rebecca, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. Certainly appreciate your willingness to sit down with me today. I know how busy you guys are. First, I'd like to start by saying Ziggy's amazing, beautiful office setting, beautiful display lot. It just looks gorgeous here.
Thank you. We're not the biggest shed lot you've probably seen in all your travels, but we try to make up for that in quality.
No doubt. You guys have absolutely gorgeous sheds, beautiful, displayed well. You guys were installing ramps whenever I got here. I was like, wow, this looks like, I feel at home. I'm around shed folks here.
Right, yeah, we're your people.
So tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do, and maybe, how'd you get in the shed business?
Well, we've been doing this it's been about 2 years now. We've been in used cars Ziggy, my boss, has been doing it since 1984, and I've worked for him since right around now in 1998. So how many years does that make that?
Oh,
Mental math is not my strong suit.
Yeah, at 24 years, maybe?
24, 25, some large number. So it's been a minute. But fast forward to 2020, beginning of the pandemic, everything in the automotive world just got turned topsy-turvy on its head. Sometimes I say to people, it's like somebody took a snow globe and just shook it like that. And you know how that makes everything crazy inside the snow globe. That's pretty much what happened to our entire world business-wise. So we managed to hang in there. A few years prior to that, after we'd been at this location for a few years, Ziggy, my boss, decided that he wanted some extra storage because he had things in the garage here, like the lawnmower, the snowblower in the summertime, various car parts, tires, things like that we had on hand, but that we didn't want cluttering up the garage here. So he wanted to get some extra storage, and there's a few different portable building shed companies that sell in this area. So he went and looked at all those different places, really checked them out, took an eye for their quality and the materials that they were using, and of course price point, because everything in business comes down to the bottom line sooner or later. So he ended up, we took a few trips down to Avery Buildings and Barns in Colon, Michigan, which is 45, 60 minutes away from us here in Kalamazoo, and looked at what they had down there, took a look at colors and things like that, and we ended up deciding, well, he ended up deciding, because he was spending the money on it, that that was the best quality and the best price, and really just all around the best value. So we had a building from them. I can't remember. I think it was a 12 by 20 standard garage, and got that delivered up here. The owner of the company came at that time. He was still doing some of the deliveries too, so he came and did the delivery for that. So he had in mind what our location was like here. And fast forward to right around this time in 2021. We've been in the pandemic for about a year and a half, closing in on, I guess a year and a half. And we were still hanging in there with the cars, but definitely not anywhere near the inventory levels that we had pre-pandemic. And we were approached by James Avery, who owns Avery Buildings and Barns, which is, of course, the company that we now are a dealer for. And he said, hey, I'm at the point in my business growth where I'd like to start having dealers. And he asked us if we would be interested because he knew what our location was like here. And for those of you who aren't familiar with our location, which is probably most of you listening, we're located on Southwest Nudge Avenue in Kalamazoo, which is the third busiest street in the state.
Oh, wow.
So we get a lot of traffic going by here. So he knew the kind of visibility that we have here at this location. And he asked us if we'd be interested in being a dealer. And we thought, hey, we're open to trying new things. So we talked to especially then, because of just how chaotic everything else was. So we talked to the city, and surprisingly, they said that there wasn't any problem with us having buildings here. And so we said, okay, we'll give it a try. And at the time, to be completely honest, I was thinking, I don't know how this is going to go. I mean, we'll give it a try, but I had no idea. My experience was in the automotive world, so I felt like I was very prepared, considering the price point of portable buildings. I mean, that we would get some pushback on price, because you get that in the car world. And people expect with cars to do some negotiating in terms of the price. But you get a lot of people who are like, no, I don't want to pay that. And they just seem, I don't know if I want to say unreasonable, because I don't like to talk bad about anybody.
Maybe they just, having the proper education and understanding of what you've got for what you're bringing to the table for value.
Yeah, and everybody has their hard-earned money, and nobody wants to spend more than they have to. But so I was expecting that same kind of pushback in terms of the price, and I didn't know at all how selling sheds was going to go, and I'm still kind of blown away 2 years later by how easy it is to sell sheds. I mean, we had our first 2 display models getting delivered, and we literally had some people come over from the thrift shop next door and say, hey, do you know who's going to be selling these? We need some. And they ended up buying 2 10x20s, and they were our first customers. So we literally hit the ground running, and it's been a wonderful godsend of a thing. So we have used cars and we have sheds, and it's not exactly a combination that you would expect to see, but it works, and here we are, and we're enjoying every minute of it.
Well, it's a really cool story, and James just seems like such a just awesome guy. We talked about the pull yourself up by your bootstraps type story, and he seems to be that, and very driven, and that's awesome. I mean, we need those people more in the shed industry.
Definitely. So. He's definitely a self-made man. He's very driven. He's very motivated. He has an excellent work ethic. And I'm not just saying that because he's sitting here watching this interview. I really, truly mean that. You don't see many people with that kind of attitude about life in general, especially not at the age that he is. And he's built a wonderful, successful company that we're very happy to be a dealer for.
I think it's awesome that he's wearing a shirt that says "Work Harder." That's a lot.
Yep.
And I appreciate that. James, you'll appreciate this. I've got a sign on my wall in the office that says the dream's free, the hustle is sold separately. So really appreciate that.
You shouldn't say sold separately. It's
earned.
It's like batteries not included. You have to supply your own hustle.
That's right. Very, very cool. Very cool story. And so one of the things I noticed whenever I got here was the busy street. Yeah, immediately, obviously, whenever we were trying to pull in with the RV. And then the quality that you guys put out there on your sheds it's really awesome.
They really sell themselves, Shannon. Yeah. I say this sometimes to customers that we are blessed to be selling this product because it really sells itself. So we just get the enjoyment of working with customers and helping them tailor a building to meet their storage needs.
Well, it's kind of cool because that's just a testimony for the shed industry in general, that it seems to be growing, that it seems to be continually expanding into other areas. I know personally at least a couple of guys who were originally selling vehicles, and then
we're not alone. That's nice to know.
And, there are still several mixtures of those who do both, but I know a couple that were selling vehicles and then just got rid of them altogether and started selling sheds. Have you found it easier, and you might have answered this already indirectly, but easier to sell sheds than vehicles?
Well, to a certain extent, selling is selling. But there is some difference between the different products. So with a used car, what you see is what you get. So we have a vehicle out here, it has a certain number of miles, it has certain options, it's a certain color. If somebody really likes the vehicle, but it's got more miles than they were looking for, or it's a different color and they don't really like that color, I can't really say, well, I'll fix that mileage for you, or at least I can't say that legally. Or I can't say, well, it's black, but for another $4,000 we could paint it whatever color you want it to be. And that's one nice thing about selling sheds, and maybe that's how it works for people who sell new cars. But that's one nice thing about selling sheds is if somebody really likes a building that we have out here on the lot, but they need it to be brown instead of gray, or they want white instead of blue or whatever, or they like how it looks, but they need the garage door over on this side, or I like this, but I don't want the window because I have nosy neighbors or something like that, we can say, okay, well, that one's out, but we'll build another one for you that's just how you want it and just with the options and the colors that you choose. That's
changed selling for you probably tremendously. It's like you said, you can't order a new car, but you can order a new shed.
Right, right.
So that's probably increased your whole expansion on your talents you didn't know you had to be able to pursue. It's like, hey, wait a minute here. I can solve your problem all of a sudden.
It's definitely easier in some ways to sell a shed because you start with a quality product and then you have the ability to say, like we were just saying, well, if you don't like it in white, we'll do it in gray instead. So,
introducing Real Steel Truss Press, the perfect solution for small and large manufacturers who want to improve their workflow and increase their productivity. Our truss press is designed to handle up to 2x6 lumber and up to 3x5 truss plates, 4x6 plates optional with ease, making it an economical and efficient choice for your business. With 3 press stations powered by 3,000 PSI hydraulic cylinders, 5 stations optional, the Real Steel Truss Press is reliable and easy to use. The cylinders are controlled by a single control valve, making operation simple and straightforward. Plus, with a 2-stage hydraulic pump, the press has a fast 4 to 5 second cycle time. Our truss press is built with your business in mind. The telescoping arms allow for a smaller footprint when only making smaller trusses, and it can install different sizes of metal plates. The press can adjust from 4 foot to 16 foot wide, handling angles of 12 by 12 pitch to straight line and anything in between. Plus, changing between different sizes is a simple 5-minute changeover. Our truss press is perfect for shed manufacturers looking to improve their production, efficiency, accuracy, and output. Whether you're a small shed builder or a large shed manufacturer, the Real Steel Truss Press is the perfect choice for optimizing your production process and increasing your bottom line. Contact us today at realsteel.com or call Darren at 570-713-0665. Real Steel, production machines for the wood industries.
Very cool. So what do you look for whenever a customer first approaches? You've probably got, 22 years before getting into sheds on knowing what to look for when a customer comes onto the lot looking for a vehicle. But if they're coming in to look for a shed, what's sort of your philosophy? I got a question for you that I think is really cool.
Okay.
For me personally, this is like just satisfying my own personal curiosity. Mm-hmm. Do you go out and greet the customer as soon as they show up, or do you allow the customer to come in? I've been with people shopping for, say, vehicles, and they're like, oh, no, here comes the sales guy. Oh, no, look, she's already walking out of the door, coming over here to bug us. We just want to stop and just look around for a little bit. Or there's the other people who say, I went over there, and they never even came out. And
yeah.
So what's your approach?
That's a fine line to walk because you get some customers – And you never know because you have no idea what's going on in the person's head when they come on the lot. And it's like that for cars and it's like that for buildings as well. So you have to walk the fine line between you definitely don't want to pounce on them like the moment they get out of the car, because that's just a little bit too sharky.
Yeah.
If I can say that. And it's kind of desperate too.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to seem like that, but you also definitely don't want to, and I say this to people, I never want a customer to feel like they don't feel the love. Mm-hmm. So I never want somebody to think that they're being ignored or that we don't care that they're coming and potentially giving us their business. So we kind of try to find that point where they get out of the vehicle, they have a chance to walk around a little bit, and then you go out and approach them. And I always say hello and ask how you doing today, something like that, and then ask if they are just looking or if they have any questions. Because sometimes people just want to look. They don't want somebody sitting on them like a mother hen, and that's honestly fine. And if somebody is like that, then I say, hey, no problem, go ahead and look, that's free. And I'll be inside if you have any questions.
They haven't, like, I had somebody tell me one time, you can shop for free. They haven't found a way to tax that yet. So.
Yeah, right.
You can look around all you want for free.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool story. Definitely getting into it. So what's your experience? What have you found your experience to be so far in these 2.5 years? When a customer walks in the door, what philosophy, what message do you want to put out to your customer if they come to Ziggy's and they're looking to buy a portable building from you?
I definitely want to find out what that person's needs are and also what type of budgetary situation are we working with, because I never want to try to upsell somebody or make them feel like I'm pressuring them in any way. So anytime I'm working with a customer, I want to know what are the needs that customer has, and how can I best meet those needs in the most cost-effective way possible.
Man, what a good answer. Have you had good experiences in that process so far? Like, do you have a memorable or a favorite moment of selling a shed so far?
Gosh, I would probably have to think about that for a while and think if there are any particularly memorable sales experiences.
Are most people looking for just traditional storage? Are they looking for, or was there any kind of story or anything where someone bought a building in a unique situation and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even think about a shed in that situation? We had one that ended up being like a food pantry, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it just turns into something different than, and that's really what buildings are so versatile now.
Yeah.
It seems like probably, in 98 or whatever, they were traditional storage and storage only, but now you're seeing so many different things
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see and talk to the customer and find out the outside-the-box uses that some people have for these buildings. I can think of one customer, and I can't remember if it was I think it ended up being a standard garage that they bought, but they configured it, of course, how they needed to have it, and they were going to use it as a milking parlor. They had, I think they were milk goats, so they were going to use it as a milking parlor for some goats. So that's definitely outside the box.
That's a new one.
Yeah. We've, of course, had, most people get them for storage, and a lot of people get the standard garage or the lofted garage. And I always like it when I get to work with somebody who has a cool classic car or hot rod or something like that they are talking about putting in there. But we've had buildings that get used as concession stands. This one wasn't a sale of ours, but James Avery sold one that was one of those, you know what shaved ice is?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a snow cone, only better.
Oh, yeah.
Gets used as the shaved ice parlor.
That's cool.
Of course, the purpose-built buildings like the horse run-ins that we do, we've had a lot of cool, really deluxe ones of those.
It's always neat to see what people are doing with some of this stuff. I mean,
yeah.
even that's, that's probably going to a ballpark or soccer field or something like that.
We've done some of those too. We sold a standard garage to Portage Central High School, and they are using it. Their tennis teams are using that for storage of equipment, but also for scoring during tennis matches. And we sold one to the Portage District Library, and they're using that for storage. But it's still cool that we work with not only individuals and regular people in the community, but also businesses and nonprofits and places like that too.
Have you found yourself like at the point yet to where you're like traveling around in Kalamazoo and you're like, I sold that building. Like,
yeah, there's actually, so there was some construction on the route that I normally take to work. So for a while this past summer, I was taking a different way to work. And so I would come by and I did drive by at least one customer, and I would always look over there. Oh yeah, his building looks good in his yard still.
I find not only do I do that like locally whenever I see something that we sold, but even in our neighborhood, me and my wife will go for a walk, and there's like 2 or 3 buildings right there close by, and I'm like, hey, sold that. I remember when that one was sitting at the lot for like 3 or 4 months, trying to get it sold, and it finally sold or whatever, and. I do that now with even like all of my travels with like, I'll see shed haulers going down the road, and they have like the shed haulers Facebook page where they always do like are you on here? And
you on here?
Yeah, you on here. And like now every time I see like a trailer behind a truck, I'm looking to see if I can see the mast on the Cardinal mule sticking up over that. And I'm like, oh, is it? I'm not sure. And then for some reason, it's like this little like kid weird feeling where you're like, and it's like slug bug or whatever. That's what we used to call it. It's almost like that with my wife. I'm like, shed hauler, hey, shed hauler, hey, there's shed hauler. Like, it doesn't even make sense like why you announce it, but I do. It's the weirdest thing. So people probably don't understand the addiction or whatever you want to call it.
Well, there are people too. So
yeah,
hey, there's somebody.
Well, I don't know. Even in our camper, we started seeing like the way that people like wave at us and stuff like that. Like just excited to see. Like we used to ride motorcycles, so motorcycle ride. It's like they greet
they have
each other.
That motorcycle driver wave. 2 fingers down.
Right. It's kind of funny, but a lot of people, whenever you're talking to them, they don't even know that. We tried something out recently where we were kind of asking people, do you know who your local shed guy is? Where would you go to find a shed? Do you guys do you find it surprising that people realize they can come here, order something portable, be brought to their yard, be delivered even into some very difficult spaces?
And we have had some tricky deliveries. We've had to go out to a few customers' yards. Most of the time it's not too difficult, but sometimes we do get customers who say, well, I don't know, and they try to describe their yard to us, and we'll say, well, we'll come out and take a look at it. Or sometimes they say, well, we'd really like to have you come out and look at our yard. And I remember doing one of those, and I got there, and I didn't even have to get out of my car, and I'm thinking, there's not going to be a problem with this. But you still, if it makes the customer feel like you're really listening to them and paying attention to their needs and making them comfortable with the whole process, then I totally don't have a problem with that. I'll do that all day long and twice on Sundays.
So,
except not really.
Yeah. So,
because I don't work on Sundays.
Yeah, I'm home, right?
The shed industry is comprised of a diverse group of companies, but also a diverse group of shed sellers. Proven sales processes are the backbone of successful businesses, and their effectiveness cannot be overstated. At Shed U, our processes provide a structured framework that guides the shed sales professional through the various stages of the sales cycle, ensuring consistency and efficiency. By following a proven process, shed salespeople can better understand their customers' needs, build trust, and tailor their approach accordingly. Additionally, these processes are developed based on years of experience and extensive market research, incorporating best practices and strategies that have yielded positive results. Your Sheducation from Shed University will not only minimize guesswork, but also maximize the chances of closing deals and achieving sales targets. Our proven shed sales process will empower you or your shed sales team to work smarter, not harder, and lead to increased productivity, customer satisfaction, and business growth. It's time to take the guesswork out of your shed sales process. Invest in yourself and your team when you attend class at Shed University. Don't be tardy. Book your ticket now at sheduniversity.com for this year's session on January 23rd and 24th at the Knoxville Convention Center, just before the GSCB show. At Shed University, class is now in session.
So are there any particular requests or like suggestions that you feel like are helpful or were helpful for like customers whenever they come in on the delivery process? Do you kind of feel like, you know, whether it's pads, or are they asking questions? Are they educated on it? Do you have to spend some time to educate them?
It runs the whole spectrum, honestly. We have some people who seem to know a little bit more, and so they know enough at least to ask, do I have to put this on cement, or what kind of base can I do for this? And we get people who haven't really got that far in their research process either, and so we'll usually try to talk about, especially when you're dealing with a bigger building that has more moving pieces, because that's a situation where you definitely want to make sure that you're starting out with a level base, as we all in the shed industry know, level base, so that you're starting out with the building sitting on that, and then you have that working against uneven settling over time, because leaks and having doors and windows stop working properly is definitely not something that you want the customer to have to deal with.
Do you find that like explaining that to the customer or the delivery process to be difficult? Do you feel like they get a good grasp of it?
Not difficult at all.
No.
We get a lot of people who ask how we do delivery, because they think, okay, you see this building standing here and it's already fully assembled, and I'm sure they think, gosh, how in the world did they get this over to my house? But we explain that it gets placed on a very special trailer that bends and tilts and does all kinds of fancy things, and then we get it delivered to the person's home. We carefully unload it from the trailer, and then we explain about the mule that we have, and we lift one end up with the wheels under there, lift the other end up with the mule, and now you've basically got the building on wheels, and you can just drive it around.
Does it work that simple? How does it go? Okay, yeah, that's.
And I use that sound effect when I'm talking to people too. I literally do that.
I think there's something wrong with your mule if it's doing that. I'm not sure, but.
Well, that's like the overtone sound, you know. It makes mule sounds, but that.
I love that you keep doing it too. That's good. I think that
you need that on your soundboard here.
We're going to record it. We're going to record it before we leave, and we're going to add it as a sound. And whenever somebody's talking from now on, I'm just going to hit it randomly and see how they react to it. That's pretty good.
Yeah, we do. We explain so that they're completely comfortable with the process, and so they know what's going to happen. And we do have to tell them, okay, so you're getting a 10-foot wide building. That means that we need at least 11 feet, preferably more, of space. So think about the distance between the side of your house and that tree that you've got in your yard.
Well, because you guys are sort of vertically integrated, or at least in several areas, your delivery is not being outsourced, so you're accountable, especially to that delivery driver. In other words, you can't just, 10 wide, 10-foot building, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You're having to be cautious of that. And that's sort of a point of conversation between shed sellers and shed haulers that I always laugh about.
And I will be the first one to admit that I did have one situation where I kind of learned that the hard way, and thankfully it all worked out. But I had spent a lot of time talking to the customer, and they assured me that yes, it's fine, it's going to fit back there. But what they hadn't figured out, or what they hadn't figured on, was the overhang on the next door neighbor's house and the window air conditioner unit.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
and of course this was like 2 hours away. And so the delivery driver calls and they said, I don't know if I can get this building into this backyard. And I was definitely on pins and needles for a while there. So after that, I definitely make sure to mention to everybody, make sure you check the space that you have available for us to get the building into your yard.
Some companies that go do site checks on every single one. That seems kind of difficult to do.
And I don't think that every delivery company can do that, especially if they're not a large delivery company. And if you have a very large delivery area, like primarily most of our customers are in Michigan, but we are able to deliver down to Indiana and Ohio as well. But if you're talking about, that's a huge area to deliver. And
Yeah.
you just don't have the manpower and the time, and to check every place would be in person.
Yeah.
Would mean
It's a lot.
a lot of gas used and time lost in driving, and it's just not practical to do it in person.
You know what I think about that idea? So I can't even do it.
But no, if it's somebody local, we can go look at the customer's property. But we do utilize Google Maps, satellite view, and street view
perfect.
a lot.
Yes.
And usually it's good enough to do
Yeah.
that. And if we end up in a situation where we're a little uncertain, we may ask the customer to send us some pictures, or we've had a few people that do a video like they're driving down their driveway. We just recently had a customer who sent us a really nice video of them driving down their driveway because they were concerned about one spot where the driveway had a drop-off right at the edge.
And you don't really find that, difficult to ask the customer for. They're
Absolutely
usually pretty
not. No.
willing to do those
Yeah,
things. So.
because they are already to the point at that time where they know that they want this building and it's going to meet their needs, and so they're invested in making this work.
So what are some things like that, information that just would have been necessary? What are some resources that have helped you along the way on your journey so far be successful? And what are some things you wish you would have known, or, resources that you could have went and found out as you got into this journey into sheds versus cars?
Well, I feel like we had a lot of help from James Avery, who owns the company, because he gave us a lot of helpful tips when we were starting out. Like, hey, his idea about check out the Google Street View and check it out on the Google Satellite View.
Do you think there are things that would have helped you more? Not that they weren't providing, but just things that you've come to realize, resources, places that you can go, sales trainings, hauler trainings or events, or, you know what I mean, manufacturing, understanding the buildings more. Just what did you just get into sheds and you're like, gosh, it's just simple, or I can understand the product more or understand it better? Do you think other resources could be helpful for you? Selling rent to own, for instance, that's probably a new thing compared to...
that was a small learning curve, because that's not... we had, of course, a background in doing financing with auto loans. And to a certain extent, rent to own is very similar to getting a conventional loan. When you have a conventional loan, you have an interest rate. But with rent to own, you don't have an interest rate. There is a percentage involved, but it is the percentage that you're paying as a rental fee. So it's a little bit different.
Sometimes it can be difficult to get that information across to the customer because they might not be as educated in their financial world on the differences, and it can really be cumbersome, to go through that.
It can be, but I feel like we have a way to explain it to people that makes it pretty clear.
Well, it seems like, from what I understand, and we'll do a shout out, you've got a really awesome guy that you work with, and Matthew Weaver, Mott's over there at Upward Management. Super awesome, him and Tanner and the whole crowd. So loved having Mott's on the first time. Enjoy every time I get down that way in the Carolinas or around there to try and connect with him. And he's just a really cool dude. So really awesome guy to work with.
And on our end, dealing with, so the company of his that we work with for rent to own is called My Shed Rental. And just on our end, working with the people in the office there, anytime we have a problem or a question, shout out to my girl Abby. She's always available via email or via phone. But the other folks in the office there are great too. Yeah. They're always happy to help out if we have a question or an issue or need to look something up for a customer or anything like that. Super great guy.
And we were kind of discussing like walking the customers through different things. And one of the things that you guys talked about was like our buddy Jason Graber over at Shed Suite. And I saw Jason grew the beard recently, so that was kind of cool. I saw he changed up his look a little bit there. But, no, I love talking with him. We've talked about getting him on for a future episode, so hoping to it's been 2.5 years. It's been a while, and I would imagine a lot of things change in 2.5 years in the tech world that he can probably add. But you guys have Union Grove Lumber. You've talked about using those. Shout out to our studio sponsor, Erica, and the good folks over at Union Grove Lumber. So, yeah, we got to connect on like a lot of points where, you know what I mean, just people we know and see in the industry, and all super cool people. And I can see why you guys are being successful.
Looking to grow your shed business this year? Say goodbye to the struggle of day-to-day management. Shed Suite has you covered. With Shed Suite, you'll get access to a full e-commerce suite for your shed business. That includes customizable dealer websites, real-time inventory management, streamlined quote and order flow, and robust analytics and reporting. What's more, Shed Suite was designed specifically for shed manufacturers and dealers by experienced shed builders just like you. With low-cost merchant accounts and integrated payments, Shed Suite makes selling sheds a total breeze. Ready to get started? Our team is excited to help you grow your shed business through 2023 and beyond. If you're looking to scale up and automate your shed business, book a demo now at shedsuite.com.
And where do you think it's going? Where's Ziggy's going in the future? You guys going to take over the world, or what do you think?
I don't know about taking over the world. Maybe taking over the shed world.
Yeah, take over the shed world. There you go.
That's a very lofty goal, but it's good to have goals, right?
Good to have goals.
I don't necessarily have a whole lot of time to think about that because we're busy selling sheds, and that's a great thing. But I like to think that I learn something new every day. And I definitely think that every sale is a chance to learn something new. And every time you are talking to a customer, they ask questions. And sometimes, even still now, after about 2 years, we get asked questions that we don't know the answer. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll find out for you.
Yeah, perfect sales approach. Communicate. I always say the one thing that people want to know is like where they stand in the process of the situation. You know, you'll know that if you've ever went to get a loan. You know, it's like, hey, where are we at? Do I need to keep looking over here or there or whatever? You know, like I'm just trying to think outside the box. Anytime I've ever been in the sales world, it's always been communication is key.
It is. So. And I never want to see a customer feel like they're uncertain in any way. So I like to say the only stupid question is one that is not asked. So people call and they say, I'm sorry to be asking so many questions, or I'm sure I'm your most pain in the butt customer or something like that. And I say, no, do not be afraid to ask the questions. Now is the time to ask the questions, because I would much rather deal with an informed customer than have somebody having buyer's remorse later on.
No, very cool. I guess you're excited to be in this line of work.
I am very excited.
Industry. Yeah,
I am. I really enjoy coming to work every day and getting to work with all the different customers from many different walks of life that we get to meet, and you kind of get to be friendly with them and get to know a little slice of their life, and I get excited about every customer that gets excited about their building, and I'm genuinely excited when a customer is excited, because that really makes it a win for me. I like to see a happy customer.
What are your favorite? Do you have like any one particular building that's your favorite to sell, or one that you see that sells the most, or a particular size? There's conversation recently on what's the most common thing sold, and I think 10 by 16, 12 by 16 seems to come in somewhere around number 1 or 2.
Well, and I think it's going to differ on the dealer location. Like, I'm sure that some of our sister dealerships in other locations here in Michigan are going to have different things that sell well for them, because that's what is catering to their customer base in that area. I can say definitely for us, well, I'm a horse person, so anytime I get to work with another horse person designing a horse run-in, I always get super excited. And on some of my walkthrough videos that I do on Facebook, which started out being, so I call it Walkthrough Wednesday. And for a while, especially in the beginning, I had a lot of stuff that I could do. So I did every week for Walkthrough Wednesday, and I've kind of slacked off on that. So I really need to work on getting back into that. And I have some videos that I need to put up, and I need to put all of them on YouTube. But anyway, so I've said on some of those videos that I have to try to rein myself in. Get it? Rein myself in, because it's for horses. Okay, sorry.
We need a little.
That's for this one.
We need a neigh sound on here. We need like a neigh. I don't know.
But no, that's me showing my bad dad joke side. Sorry.
I love it. I don't. So I don't think we're friends on Facebook. Personally, we'll have to change that.
Yeah,
but
we
will. I share dad jokes like almost every day because I love them. So, you know who else does? Matthew Weaver does, and he's hilarious.
Okay, well, we'll need to fix that. But anyway, rein myself in, because I get really enthusiastic about selling horse barns, because I get to work with other horse people, creating something that is going to improve the lives of the horses in their life. So that's really exciting for me. But I think definitely for us, our best seller is the standard garage. For a while, we would have always a 12 by 24 in stock here. So we sold the snot out of those. And then we decided to go up to a 14 by 24, and now we sell the snot out of those. So it does help to having something on site, and that's why it's really great to have display buildings, because people can come and not only see the quality of the construction, but they get to see, okay, this is what I'm going to be getting, and they can stand inside it and get a sense of what a 14 by 24 space feels like, which is really helpful, because I know for me, you can say 10 by 16 or 12 by 24 or 14 by 24 or whatever size. And the idea that you have of that size in your head is way different than when you actually stand inside it. Or you think, okay, 7-foot sidewalls, and you think, gosh, 7 feet doesn't sound like it's really that tall. I'm, 5'6", and I think, gosh, is that short? But then you go out and stand in it, and it feels perfectly roomy. So, but yeah, I definitely think that the standard garage is our best seller. We sell lots and lots of those.
I can see why you're a good salesperson. I mean, it's obvious that
Thank you.
Yeah, it's obvious that your passion for it transfers. You're right on the spatial awareness. It's so hard to get this is why it's so nice to have brick and mortar lots. We talk about the online sales approach and how it's really, yeah, it's there.
And
okay.
there's a big component to that, because that really gets the word out. And if a picture is worth 1,000 words, you've got several thousand words if you put a few pictures out there. And that definitely is a tool to help get people on the lot. But we also, and especially with our location and the high traffic volume that we have, we get a lot of customers who just drive by and they'll call or they'll turn around and pull in and they'll say, hey, I see you've got these buildings. I need something like that.
Has reading sales books really been like one of the things that you feel like's helped you, or watching others, learning from others, talking to others, networking? What do you feel like's helped you the most in your sales approach?
I think definitely having good mentors and role models has always been a help. I will be honest, and some people may dislike me for hearing this, and I don't want to be down on anybody who likes to read or likes to watch instructional videos or who went to college to learn how to be in sales. But I guess as for my experience, just learning as I went along and having good mentors showing me how to do it is the way that I've always gone in my life. And like I've said before, every day is a learning experience. So every time I am in a new situation or working with another customer, that's an opportunity to learn. Of course, if you make a mistake, those are always the lessons that stick with you the best. And I'm not going to lie, I will be the first one to tell you that I've had some of those in my life. But
haven't we all?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's life, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you come through it, and I think and I hope that the times that I've goofed up, thankfully nobody got hurt, nobody died, and I think in the end we were always able to rectify the situation.
You're
and
better because of it.
Yes, and I don't think we ever lost a sale or anything like that because of me having to goof up. And I think, honestly, that's something. If you can be honest with somebody and not try to be fake or put on a certain persona or something, I think if you're genuine with people, they can really tell that. And I think people just appreciate honesty. They don't want to deal with your stereotypical well, I'll just say it, your stereotypical car dealer type salesperson. So don't be that. Be honest, be genuine, be customer focused. And I think too, maybe some of sales is just having an outgoing personality and a desire to help the customer.
Yeah.
And I often think my grandpa, may he rest in peace, did furniture sales for a number of decades, and he always, I think, kind of hoped that my dad would go into sales, and he did computers for 35 plus years. But so I guess it just skipped a generation, and now here I am selling stuff. But I always hope that he's looking out that window in heaven and looking down on me, and I hope that I'm making him proud and I'm doing right by his last name and working to dispel that salesperson stereotype.
I can tell you have a long road ahead of you, because a lot of people have experienced that, but I can guarantee that you are part of the solution. Very kind, very informative.
I hope I am.
Just everybody here is so nice. I wish you guys nothing but success in all that you do. Love getting an opportunity to meet with you. Love the chance to swing by here and just meet James and Ziggy, and it's a beautiful facility. Love what you guys are doing. Really, really mean this. You're partnered with a lot of really awesome people, and you're going to have lots of success as you continue to do that.
It helps to have good people in your corner.
It does, you know.
Because no person is an island, and if you want to be successful, it's important to have good support team. So I really feel that we have that.
Hello, shed sellers. Did you catch the latest Real Work Labs interview with George Converse? If not, don't miss this value-packed episode. Head to Shed Geeks Podcast YouTube and search Real Work Labs. George and the Real Work Labs crew are riding the wave of Google's latest updates, taking your digital presence to the next level. We're tech artisans crafting your neighborhood brand voice for shed sellers like you to stand out, gain trust, and get found online. Our software will easily capture your work snapshots, videos, weave your craft's story, and get reviews all in one virtual experience. Our innovation goes beyond getting found for your business location, rather getting found for your work locations. Reviews intertwine with their corresponding job sites. When potential customers seek local expertise, you're the proven solution they'll find. It's high time to map your reviews and showcase your beautiful work in a meaningful way that builds trust in customers' neighborhoods. Ready for the journey? Visit shedgeek.realworklabs.com or call George today at 480-787-7575. Real Work Labs, elevating your trust, increasing your conversions, and getting you found where you work in the neighborhoods you serve, one shed at a time.
I'm going to do something that I've been doing. It's a little bit different.
Okay.
You may have to think on this. I don't know how many shows you watch or listen to, but I've been doing this recently, and I think we're going to leave them in if it goes successful. I don't know why I started this other than to try and create like more trust and understanding in the industry of who Shannon is, because I couldn't agree with you more that building trust, being transparent, has served me better than not. And I've tried both ways in my life. And
well, that's just anything that you're doing in life, whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship, being transparent and honest.
Absolutely.
Was it Mark Twain who said, if you always tell the truth, then you don't ever have to try to remember
That's right.
which lie you told to which person? So that's definitely...
I think it was Mr. T that said that.
Was it Mr. T?
Yeah.
My man, Mr. T. I pity the fool who doesn't remember that it was Mr. T who said that.
It's awesome. I love. We should have done more of that. You're brilliant. I absolutely love.
Thank you.
I can see why that you're successful with people.
Well, you keep giving me these great setups. You're like the perfect
We're knocking
straight
them out of the
man
park.
here.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
We're a team here. That's
Where's
what it
that
is.
laughing, cheering? There's the cheering.
It's the cheering, and then we've got the laughing. It's just all of it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you. I'm going to do. Okay. Enough of that. One question, whether personally or business related, shed related, whatever, give you a chance to turn the microphone around, interview me for one question. Anything that you want to ask, whatever, it's on the table.
Oh, okay. Do you have a favorite episode?
That can get me in trouble, can't it?
Yeah.
The natural answer should be, today is my favorite interview ever, because that's the smart answer, right?
What a brilliant answer to that question. Nicely done.
I would say there's so many that stick out in my mind that I agree it's kind of hard to put one thing on. I still go back to, and I even constantly use Tyler Mahan's A Rising Tide Lifts All Boats early on when we got started, because I do truly believe that if we work together, more is accomplished than working apart, while also recognizing that competition is real and it's necessary at times. So for me, I'm sort of on that personal journey. I remember interviewing Wolf Valley, and Josh Villalobos said, Americans are given so many opportunities. The hard thing that they have is just choosing one of those and being really well at them. I feel like I'm living that moment. It's really cool and humbling to have so many opportunities and experiences in the shed industry from several different directions. That's cool, but it's also overwhelming. And then you're always worried, am I going to make a wrong decision on this?
That's me in everyday life.
Yeah. Gosh,
Am I going to regret this decision?
I would almost say maybe not a favorite episode, but there's some people that I've just connected with well. more, and to a point where you want to work with them more daily because you feel like just sort of really in sync with them on a personal and spiritual and emotional level. That's just kind of like, hey, these are my tribe, my people. I want to be around them. I want to work with them. I always worry about how that's going to be viewed or seen, though, by the listeners and the audience and those in the industry, because it's hard to walk a tightrope of what I do sometimes. So it's easy to be a worrywart on things.
Oh, you're telling me.
Transparency has still sort of played the best response. And what I get caught up in is trying to convince them. And that's where you go wrong, is quit trying to convince them that you're just being honest and transparent, and let the truth actually do its own explanation.
Let your actions speak for themselves.
Yeah, don't try and convince them, because it's almost like you're chasing someone down constantly to try to convince them of something that they're not ready to listen to. So that's not really the answer to your favorite, but I picked up on where you went with it and took it a little farther in my own direction. But that's my overarching thoughts. I really do love what I do and want to keep doing it. So yeah, I enjoy this part of the segment the most, is I'm finding out that as I answer questions back, I kind of see how difficult it is, and hopefully it makes me a better interviewer.
So James suggested that we ask the question. You've had a lot of experience in many aspects of the shed industry and the shed world. You've done some sales, you've done some rent to own, you've done some marketing. So you have a very well-rounded view of the industry. And he asks, where do you see the industry going in the coming years? Do you see one area as being more faster growing than another in terms of in the city, in the country?
Yeah, I would say, well, so much is dependent on sales, right? I always say that sales drives things forward. If you have a good salesperson in a bad location, you can outsell a good location with a bad salesperson. So I think that knowledge of the industry growing as a whole is necessary, because education is oftentimes the key. Data, learning, understanding, and then buy-in. One thing that I've noticed with the shed industry, there's oftentimes with new products, new tech, and things like that, there's not always buy-in. It's almost like you need an unreasonable amount of convincing first, and then it's like, okay, now we'll jump. With that being said, I understand the cautiousness, because I don't want to be sold on something that's not ready or not working. So I kind of get that at the same time. I did I did a company event recently in Oklahoma where I spoke, and one of the things that I'm doing one in Kentucky next week. One of the things that I talked about in Oklahoma was looking at their growth in population, and they're seeing the same kind of things that Texas and Tennessee are seeing. And the more housing you're seeing coming in, you're seeing the more demand for storage. It just comes naturally. And not to suggest that self-storage is our enemy, but self-storage is kind of an area where I feel like we can take business, because I think that people want a storage shed in their backyard. They just might not be able to afford it. And then it takes this whole other conversation. It goes this other rabbit hole to rent to rent versus rent to own, because you're never actually investing in anything whenever you go rent a storage, self-storage. And then what is it like after 2 years, most of the stuff that's in it is less valuable than what you've paid in rent to store it. So having some kind of ownership, path to ownership, whether it's owning or renting. But I would say
it's like renting an apartment versus paying a mortgage and buying a house too. You get the people who, mini storage is a great option, but you're paying that rental every month, and you're never going to get anything out of it other than storage for your stuff. Whereas if you are making payments on a building that's in your backyard, at least at some point you're going to own that.
I think if you can educate people on that, and I think we have a tall task ahead of us, because it seems as though the unfortunate part is if people, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, if people are purchasing on rent to own, they're purchasing on rent to own because they either have failed credit or no credit or just simply don't have the cash. And I'm not saying that's the entire customer base, but if that is the case, then it seems to me like what they need is not only a way and a path towards ownership, but also an education on, and I know people say, hey, it's not my job to educate the customer on their financial needs. They can spend the money they want, but it's just simply probably where I just disagree. Now, to what level do you want to educate them?
Yeah.
It's probably up to you. I at least try to do.
And that's a fine line to walk, too,
that's right.
because you don't want to get all up in somebody's business,
that's right.
particularly
Yep.
where finances are concerned, because
Yep.
that's just a little bit too nosy. But you do want to be helpful to the customer, because in the end, it's going to be helpful to you, because then you're not going to have repos.
Yeah.
Or not as many repos, I guess.
Well, it's just transparency, it's understanding, and a lot of times, this is a month-to-month lease, with rent-on. So, like, my short answer would be this. We're servicing multiple industries at this point. It's no longer just a shed or an outbuilding in your backyard and, like, some guys building a couple of things that they threw together. Their studios, their office workspaces. Now they're getting into the tiny home market. You're seeing things on chassis. You're seeing double wide. You're seeing 2 stories. Things are moving, to where the lines are blended and the color's gray between a shed and a house. I mean, there's even shed to house group. To kind of answer James' question, a really, really long, big, long answer is, probably where you're seeing the housing market grow, and why are you seeing the housing market grow? That's where you're going to see people purchasing storage. So, and expanding into the tiny home market and things like that seems a very real possibility. So that's a long answer, but I think between all of this, we're going to have a really good show.
I hope so.
I just want to end it with one thing, though.
Okay.
I want one more sound effect. We got to get that on.
One more?
One more. There it is. So I wish I could make that the name of this show, but appreciate you being on and your hospitality.
Shed Geek Podcast.
Thank you for being on today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming and interviewing us today.
It was a lot of fun.